Hello and welcome to Tap Into the Truth, coming to you live from Roane County, Tennessee. This is your host, Tim Tapp. Tonight, we're going to talk about the leaked memos that the Obama White House has been sending back and forth with the Justice Department in their attempt to get legal authorization for their drone attacks involving American citizens anywhere in the world on the battlefield. First, let's read the article and then we'll discuss it a little bit, shall we? Several weeks ago, Rand Paul rightfully criticized the occupier for acting like a king with regard to his proposals on gun control. Without even realizing it, Senator Paul was far more correct than he even realized. A memo from the U.S. Justice Department was leaked early today outlining the Obama administration's justifications for murdering U.S. citizens, and it's downright chilling. In short, the president claims he has the power and authority to decide whether an American lives or dies if he deems that they are a threat to the national security of the United States. In other words, without giving them a chance of any sort of trial or hearing, the president assumes that he has the power to blow up U.S. citizens so long as he feels it's justified. But it gets worse than that. According to the memo, the president doesn't even have to have actual intelligence that the U.S. citizen in question, who happens to be the target, is even a threat. In other words, he can just pop off anybody. Don't believe me? Here's an excerpt from the actual document. In quotations, the condition that an operational leader present an imminent threat of violent attack against the United States does not require the United States to have clear evidence that a specific attack on U.S. persons and interest will take place in the immediate future. An article from NBC News goes on to point out more of it, that instead it says an informed, high-level official of the U.S. government may determine that a targeted American has been recently involved in activities posing a threat of a violent attack, and quote, there is no evidence suggesting that he has renounced or abandoned such activities, end quote. The memo does not define what is recently or even what are activities. In other words, the language in this document is intentionally vague. There's no objective standard for measuring a threat, and nothing that the president can be held accountable to in his decision-making. This harkens back to the power of a king, and in some ways even worse than the powers that King George III himself assumed to himself before the colonists declared independence from his rule. President Bush shares blame in this, since he established dangerous and sweeping precedent for a president to wage a personal and unilateral war against terror in highly unconstitutional ways. But the problem is that Obama specifically ran against aggressive Bush policies that expanded the war on terror. Now, the occupier is going far beyond anything that Bush ever did, essentially assuming unto himself the power of judge, jury, and executionary without any clear guidance or any congressional check. This is by far the most concrete piece of evidence we have to demonstrate that the occupier is a power-hungry tyrant. He's willing to give himself the power to eviscerate American citizens according to his whim. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no two ways about it. This is pure evil. The truth is right there. It's standing us. We don't even have to dig very far to tap into this particular truth. This is not even a use your brain moment. This should be so freaking obvious that you don't have to use your brain. Jay Carney was sent out later in the day after news of this memo being leaked got out and was already being reported. There is intentional vagueness in this. The battlefield is now being openly defined as anywhere, which means you, dear citizen, can be sitting in your home, minding your own business, watching Big Bang Theory, and perhaps that night's episode is a bit on the side of terroristic things going on at NASA, for example. I don't know. I mean, use your imagination here, folks. You're sitting at home minding your own business, but the occupier who has data miners watching your emails picked up that you received a group email from somebody you don't even freaking know that wrote a joke about the obviously photoshopped photo of Obama skeet shooting where the guns flipped around. Because you got that image in your email, now all of a sudden you're a threat. If this legal argument is allowed to stand due to the vagueness in how it's been written up and drawn up with no quantitative objectionable guidelines, that could be enough. That could be enough for him to send a predator drone right over your head and blow up your house. And just because you got an email that you may not even know is in your inbox yet, you're a threat. You, your wife, your kids, your neighbor who happened to come across the street to watch the show with you because his cable's on the fritz. I don't know. Collateral damage happens. This is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. This is so dangerous. He is so arrogant as to assume Congress and the Supreme Court have no right to question him and his authority. This goes beyond arrogance, ladies and gentlemen. This man is dangerous. He is a despot, want to be. He is following the Hugo Chavez playbook, and even if he doesn't ultimately get the benefit of getting to be the person who takes over, he's certainly going a long way towards laying the groundwork for the next person who's meant to step in and fill that role. And for our conspiracy corner for this evening, those of you who are concerned about the Bilderberger Group, again, point out Hillary Clinton. That's Hillary Rodham Clinton. Rodhams are one of the founding members of the Bilderbergers. Let the occupier do all the dirty work of preparing America for the idea of being under a new socialist regime, and then let the Bilderbergers' actual membership step in and take over when the time's right. How's that for your conspiracy corner? Well, while we're in the conspiracy corner, let's keep it up. We touched on it a little bit yesterday. Again, more major articles pushed up, this time by a bit more of the mainstream media. Still not getting highly reported, though. The big question mark is Obama firing generals that are not willing to kill Americans. Last week, a Utah Sheriff's Association promised to defend the Constitution even to the death, if necessary. Thousands of Americans have pledged to ignore gun registration requirements in New York alone, and millions of Americans are openly discussing the possibility of secession. These are surreal times. This is more divided now than Americans were going into the Civil War, which is also another reason why the media is playing up Lincoln so much here lately. Again, social programming, and why Barack wants you to associate him with Lincoln every chance he gets. He wants to be associated with Lincoln. They're moving towards a mindset. This isn't one-sided, however. Apparently, the occupier is asking his generals the question, are you willing to fire on American citizens? And if not, they can't go up the ranks anymore. They're dead where they're at. No more promotions. It can only mean one thing. The occupier is readying the U.S. military to literally shoot and kill Americans. What is the source of this? Well, the man who's out here saying it is a Nobel Peace Prize nominee. Now, is he right? There's an awful lot of buzz about it, but there really is no telling at this point. It's impossible to know for certain. This particular person has made other strong claims in the past, especially regarding the Sandy Hook shooting. Still, it's best that we kind of doubt, strongly doubt, strong claims like this, but it's the kind of news we should be extremely sensitive to, because messing up on something like this is a mistake that you only get to make once. If you're not right about this and it's real, there's no coming back from it. There's no apologies. There's no retractions. I don't know if you file this under offbeat or just Hollywood hypocrisy, but now Sylvester Stallone has come out once again strongly favoring a complete and total gun ban. In fact, as evidence from earlier statements in the years gone by, Stallone actually supports door-to-door confiscations of guns, handguns. I mean, it makes me sick to even to read this story and then to be here turning around and telling you guys about it, because I've always been a huge Stallone fan. I loved the Rocky movies. I liked the first Rambo. They got silly rather quickly. I liked Cobra. Liked several of the other. I even liked Tango and Cash. And not one of his better movies for him, but the movie was great. These were all fun parts of my growing up. And then, I've heard before that Stallone's an anti-gun guy, and he's actually pretty illiterate about how guns work. But it's still just a punch in the gut to hear Sylvester Stallone making these statements. Apparently, Stallone was a strong anti-gun guy in the 90s. That's old news. Many suggested that he had gotten more conservative over the years. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like he has, at least not on this. Breitbart.com reported Stallone has publicly asked who could possibly need an assault weapon, and then describes it as though